My name is Catherine Sullivan-DeCarlo, and I'm Vice President of Admissions and Marketing for Chapel Haven, and I'm also joined by
Christy, Chandler, Director of Admissions.
And we are delighted to welcome you to our Admissions 101 webinar today. Hopefully you are seeing on your screen a PowerPoint that we're going to be walking through today. And we are going to cover basically three things. We are going to cover an overview about Chapel Haven and just give you sort of a 30,000-foot aerial look at what we're all about. And then we'd like to share some tips on how your son or daughter can be ready for a transition program like ours. And, you know, we'll be drawing on many, many years of experience in the field. And so hopefully the tips will be helpful no matter what you decide to do. And then we're going to give you just a quick refresher on how to apply to Chapel Haven. And we want to give a shout out to the folks who are joining us today. And we have a couple of potential applicant parents who are eager to learn more about Chapel Haven. Who else is online?
We've also got the parent of an incoming REACH student, which we're very excited about, as well as a friend of ours from a program out in Arizona. So thanks for joining us today.
And at some point, you might get to see us on camera. We're a little bit new with this technology, but hopefully you're able to see our PowerPoint. If at any time in this presentation you would like to send us a question, you can do that. Just look to the icons on your screen, and I believe there should be either a raise your hand icon or a write a question, and we'll do our best to address the questions as they come up. We want this to be nice and interactive. And I'm going to turn it over to Christy now. She's going to give you a little bit of an overview about Chapel Haven.
So welcome again, and thanks for joining us. So Chapel Haven is pleased to be a program that has stood the test of time for over 45 years. We've been serving adults with disabilities to help them live independent lives. And we serve a broad community and are a place where students can come and learn in a really intensive setting, and then also a place where they can continue to live out everything that they've learned in a community with our ongoing supports. We are nationally accredited through CARF, which is the Commission for the Accreditation of Rehabilitative Facilities. And we're also an approved special education school. So for students who are working to fulfill those transition parts of their IEP, we are able to do that with them. So how did we start? We started back in 1972, as many things do in the special needs world, with parents. So there were families whose children were graduating from Maplebrook School and it had a great boarding school education, but were not yet prepared to step out and manage apartments and jobs and all the day-to-day aspects of being an independent young adult. So one of the families was a realtor, and they thought, all right, well, let's get this started. We're going to buy a house down on Chapel Street in New Haven, which is how we got our name, Chapel Haven. And, you know, we're going to teach them to take the bus, and we're going to teach them what budgeting looks like and how to grocery shop and menu plan and cook. You know, they may still need to move back home, but at least they'll be more independent, you know, if they do. And so they started with 2 staff and 6 students, and what they found was they didn't need to move back home. They were able to learn all those day-to-day aspects of independent living and have very fulfilling, enriched lives and live them out the way that you and I do every day. So we moved to our current location in Westville in 1976 and have continued to grow in the adults that we are able to serve and the programs that we can offer. And are pleased to be a part of that community. So Catherine's going to tell you about the exciting new phase.
Okay, and I believe we have another participant in the webinar. Welcome to our Admissions 101 webinar. And just a reminder, if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to write them in and we'll address them. So this is a super exciting time at Chapel Haven. We have broken ground on a major multi-year campus expansion. And what prompted that was that Chapel Haven is a program for a lifetime, but literally has not been able to serve the adults in our community who, as they have aged, have developed more medical needs. And so it's been really heartbreaking for those of us here at Chapel Haven to see an adult who, let's say, has been at Chapel Haven for 40 plus years and considers this obviously their adult home, just as we all find our adult home. And then develop some medical needs that prompt them to have to go off to a nursing home or assisted living. And we all know, that assisted living and nursing homes really haven't caught up yet to the needs of aging adults in the disabilities field. And so our board of directors and our president, Michael Storrs, when he took over as president, the board said, Mike, what would be a big goal that you'd like to see, one big change for Chapel Haven? And this was it. Mike said that we really would like to be a lifelong program. And so that led us to start looking at what we could do to achieve that. And to make this short and sweet, a couple of years of major strategic planning. Later, we have broken ground on a program in which we will be building a senior living campus here on Chapel Haven's property. And along the way, our board felt, looking at our campus, that our buildings, we can only humorously call them lovingly used. And they've been well used over the years, but really we knew and we know that we needed a facelift. So we have broken ground on and are underway, literally right outside our window today, with the construction of a new Reach residential and classroom campus, 4 stories. And we also completed in February a new welcome center, which is where we are broadcasting from right now. And then the next component of the program in the fall of 2018 is we are going to, fall of 2019, excuse me, we'll be breaking ground on the senior living program. Now this next slide shows a flyover that our architects from the SLAM Collaborative created. And Josh Liebeskin is our IT guy, and he's here to see if we can get this to play.
Was this it, or did I go forward too many slides?
Okay, it's okay if we can't get it to play right now. We wanted to show that to you, but that's okay. Okay, no problem. So the next slide shows our new Welcome Center. If you look to the left there, and that, as I mentioned, we just broke ground, we just completed. And the photo at the bottom right shows the ribbon cutting. So we had all the major dignitaries here. Senator Richard Blumenthal was here. The person wielding the big scissors there is Andy, who is one of our longtime community members, and he was actually the MC of the festivities for the day. Then to the right, in the black and white outfit, that's Mayor Tony Harp, and she is a big supporter of Chapel Haven. And in the background is Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro and lots of dignitaries. So it was a really fun, beautiful day at Chapel Haven. There we go. And the next slide shows a sample apartment in the new Reach building. So you can see that it's bright and airy and open. And the students will all have their own bedrooms that will center out onto a shared living space. We had a lot of help from some real experts in the disabilities field, including Dr. Lori Sperry, on how to develop a campus that would be sensitive to sensory overload, fine and gross motor issues, etc. So we're super excited about the new program coming online, and that will be open in July of this year. So those of you who are listening in and are thinking about when to apply to Chapel Haven, this is the time. We are really on the cutting edge right now. And the left upper slide there shows the new student lounge, and at the right is one of our new classrooms in the building, which will be outfitted with all the latest technology. And this is an aerial rendering of how the campus will look. So you can see that we have sort of a meandering, what we call outdoor living room courtyard that will connect all the new facilities. And you're looking at about nearly 3 acres here in Westville that Chapel Haven owns, and looking at a beautiful view right there of West Rock, which is right across the street from our campus with lots of parks and walking trails, etc. So super excited. I'm going to turn this back to Christy to talk now more specifically about the programs that we offer.
So as we mentioned before, we've been around since 1972, which has given us the opportunity to continue to grow and serve many adults. And so across our 3 programs, 2 of which are in New Haven, which is the REACH program and the ASAP program. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those in a little bit. And then we also have a campus in Tucson, Arizona, and we call that Chapel Haven West. So among those programs, we're serving about 250 adults. So some of them are living with us and learning in one of our core residential programs, and others have graduated and are maintaining their independence out in the community with our ongoing supports. We're pleased to have a fantastic board made up of parents as well as local professionals and experts in their fields. We've got Peggy Baker, who's a parent and chairman of the board on the left, as well as Harriet Schleifer down at the bottom and Dr. Bilazikian on the bottom right, all parents and professionals. We've got Dr. Fred Volkmar from Yale and Mike Rambrose from the Whitney Center. So just to give you some tidbits about Chapel Haven, we are a diverse community, and amongst our greater population serve about 60% male and 40% female. Our age ranges are from 18 at our youngest up to about 65 at our oldest now. So certainly not 65-year-olds living with 18-year-olds, but definitely providing opportunities for intergenerational mixing in weekend recreation and some of our continuing adult ed classes, and opportunities for some of our more seasoned graduates living out in the community to help our newly graduated residential students make that transition. We are really proud of our staff. In an industry where turnover is sometimes as high as 40 or 50%, we're really pleased to have a turnover rate of about 12%. We've got many of our administrative staff and leadership staff who started in direct care positions and teaching positions and really know the ins and outs and day-to-day. And our staff is very much like a family. I mean, it's a very committed community. We take good care of one another and of the adults that we serve. So employment is a very important aspect of what we have always done, and we're really proud of our outcomes of 80 to 90% of our graduates having jobs that they're taking part in week to week. Many of those are getting paid employment, and some of those are doing those completely independently, while others might be receiving some ongoing job supports and job coaching from us. For those who are maybe not employed competitively, then they are definitely taking part in volunteer opportunities across the community. You can see down there at the bottom, there's about 25 different sites that we serve, and that's just in New Haven, with about 463 hours per week. So really pleased that we are able to give back to our community and be connected to our community in so many ways. So as I said, we've been working on vocation for quite some time, but as I'm sure many of you know, this is a tricky issue for adults with special needs. And so we were so pleased to receive a $5 million grant this past year to help us address the issue of underemployment in adults with disabilities. And so with that grant, we've created the Center for Employment Services and Opportunities, call it CESO for short. If you hear somebody refer to it, that's what they mean. And so this is allowing us to take a new approach to this whole job thing. So we're really becoming much more strategic in how we are assessing our adults. So not just what the skills that they have, but also what their interests are. And then making better matches with employers to utilize those to lead to improved quality of life, which leads to improved job performance, and then also longer job retainment because they're happy with what they're doing and they're good at what they're doing. So through this grant, we have already placed adults in jobs and are continuing to broaden the network of employers that are wanting to work with us. And we are committed to the belief that everybody can work. And so we're super excited to see this program, which is kind of in its infancy, just continue to grow and blossom and help more of our adults lead to lasting, happy jobs. So another possible opportunity for adults to develop their vocational skills, is through PAVE, which is a year-long internship at Yale-New Haven Hospital. And so our adults go there Monday through Friday. They're responsible for getting themselves up in the morning. They take the bus quite early to get down there by 8 or 8:30, I think it is in the morning, and then work a full day. And so they're working directly with the hospital staff and have the opportunity to try out a couple of different departments throughout the year. And they're also receiving supports from a special education teacher and a speech language pathologist as they develop those soft skills related to employment during that year. Another exciting opportunity for vocational development is with UARTS. So UARTS is a place where adults who have an interest in the arts and have that creative streak can go and learn different techniques from master artists and then use those skills that they've learned to create home goods and fashion goods and just fun holiday related things in a studio space that's here on our campus. So they're doing things like weaving and screen printing. They make candles, they make jewelry. They do a lot of upcycling and just really creative, fantastic items that they sell on their Etsy store as well as at local fairs and special events that we have. So if you are planning to tour Chapel Haven, definitely ask about this when you come, and love to show you their studio space. It's a fantastic spot on our campus.
Okay. Just a reminder that we are happy to answer any questions you may have, so feel free to send those along as you're listening in and watching. I want to talk a little bit about the Westville Village location where Chapel Haven has been based for the last 45 years. And we also have a satellite campus in Tucson, Arizona called Chapel Haven West. And so we're going to touch a little bit on that. But Westville Village is a residential neighborhood of New Haven. It is almost in Woodbridge, and we are in a highly walkable community. You can see from this slide that on the bottom there is Gateway Community College, and that is a nice option for a lot of our students. It's literally just a bus ride away into downtown New Haven. Gateway used to be located out at Long Wharf, so to get out there you had to take a bus and a transfer. But now it's literally just a straight shot into downtown New Haven. The slide on the upper left there shows a little bit of West Rock, and the bigger slide at the right shows Westville Village. So we do our banking in Westville Village. What else do we do down there?
We eat.
Yeah, we go out for
we get our haircut.
Snacks. We go do haircuts there. So it's literally right down the street. We also have Mitchell Library, which is a branch of the New Haven Public Library, literally right next door. So Chapel Haven is a member of the Westville Village Renaissance Alliance, and we are all working together to keep the community vibrant. A lot of Yale families live in our neighborhood. The mayor lives in our neighborhood. Senator Joe Lieberman used to live right here in Westville. He grew up here. He literally grew up in a house on our campus. And so it's a very desirable neighborhood and a great spot for us in terms of being able to get to and fro and learn how to live independently. We have a lot of partners in the community, so we do consider the City of New Haven our classroom. We're not a program that stays just in our own classrooms, but we're out and about every day. So we have the largest Best Buddies chapter in the state of Connecticut and one of the largest in the nation. Every Wednesday night, students from Southern Connecticut State University come over here, and we have at least, I think at this point, 60 pairs of Southern students paired with our adults, including both our residential students and our community members. So very, very active with that. The photo at the right shows the Yale Center for British Art. We have an active partnership with them, and our students go and study all the masters at Yale Museum, and Yale comes here as well to teach painting and all kinds of activities. We have a Judaic Studies group that meets monthly here at Chapel Haven, and we recognize all the holidays and celebrate. We also have a church around the corner, St. Aidan's, that is very, very popular. So, you know, really this is a neighborhood full of adult options. And Southern Connecticut State University, we have a wonderful class over there in social communication that many of our ASAT students take part in. These are our 3 core programs at a glance. The REACH program is our founding program, and it is for adults with developmental and social disabilities. And it's really focused a lot on independent living and vocational preparedness. The program in the middle is our Asperger's Syndrome Adult Transition Program here in New Haven, and we have really redesigned that program to be accessible to families at a lot of different tuition price points and a lot of different services. So that's for adults with high functioning autism, Asperger's syndrome. As well, we also have the Chapel Haven West campus, and there's a lot of overlap between our Tucson program and our ASAP program here in New Haven. Our Chapel Haven West program does provide a 24/7 staffed environment for 2 years. So for adults with high functioning autism, Asperger, etc., who need that kind of an environment, that would be the premier program for us to recommend. Another key thing to know about Chapel Haven, if your son or daughter comes here, we have a very detailed assessment tool to benchmark their progress. So we take our first benchline assessment after the first 45 days, and then we continue the assessment for every 6 months throughout the program. And we are looking across a lot of different settings. So we're not a program that teaches a skill just in the classroom. It's really important to us that our adults are able to generalize their skills out in the community. So we look at how they do in the apartment, in the classroom, but also how they're doing on the job and in college and out in the community. And then we use our assessment tool to recommend to each family what kinds of services the adult is going to need once they've completed Chapel Haven's residential program and are living out in our community. This is a highly sought after assessment tool. I cannot tell you how many programs and agencies want a copy of this tool. It is unique to Chapel Haven, and we are publishing a book to talk more about how other programs can use the tool. And another really important thing about Chapel Haven is we're not just a 2-year program or school and then your young adult ends up back at home in mom or dad's basement and you're once again trying to figure things out. We are a lifelong program. We'll be truly lifelong with our new campus expansion. And our typical residential grad moving out into our community really only needs typically about 2.5 hours of support a week. We have a whole menu of services that we offer once a young adult is living in our community, everything from continuing to help them manage their budget to going to the doctor's appointments to keeping the apartment tidy, and right on to social communication and how to continue learning how to solve problems and be a happy functioning adult.
So now we're going to kind of segue from talking, specifically about Chapel Haven to just in general, how to start thinking about if your son or daughter is ready to make a transition into a post-secondary program. The question we hear very frequently is, how do I start this thing? Where do I even begin? So the first thing that will be helpful, no matter what program you're considering, is to put together a transition profile. And so typically any program that you're looking at is probably going to ask to see the most recent psychological testing, something that's within the last 2 to 3 years, is obviously helpful, as well as a current IEP if they're still in high school, or if they just maybe recently graduated from high school, their exit IEP. If there are transition assessments that have been completed or vocational assessments, those are also helpful to give us a better understanding of their particular learning profile, what works for them, what are areas that they can continue to grow in. And then it's also great if they've had some volunteer experience or maybe some beginning work experience, and you can get letters of reference from the supervisors or the leaders in those experiences. That's really helpful to see as well. So once you get that compiled, then any program that you consider, you can kind of say, okay, I've got it here, I'm ready to send it off, and that will really get the ball rolling and helping a program to determine, might this be a right fit? So once you've kind of done your legwork, then you want to take it to the next step where you start getting out there and seeing what's available. School districts can sometimes give you some guidance in that area. There are a lot of great online resources. One that we particularly like to recommend is specialneedsprograms.org. So that program has programs, Chapel Haven is included, as well as a lot of like-minded and kind of similar philosophy kinds of programs all across the country there. So that can be a helpful tool. It allows you to search by geographic region as well as by program type. So as you're going through and learning about the programs, one thing we like to also let families know is, it's okay to ask programs for parent references, because we on the admission side know that we can tell you things all day long, but until you hear it from somebody else who's been in your shoes and walked down that road, that's really what can help kind of alleviate fears about what's on the other side of all of this, and give you guidance about what their process looked like as well. So definitely feel free to ask for those when you're speaking with programs. The other part to think about too is making sure that your young adult is included in this process. And families kind of come to this decision at different times and in different ways. Sometimes they like to narrow things down a little bit before involving their adult just to make sure that the focus is in the right area. Other adults like for their child to be in from the get-go, to provide their input. But at some point, it is important to involve your young adult in that process so that they can begin to take ownership and can begin to understand, what's coming next. Because that can be a big source of anxiety for young adults too, is, not knowing what something's going to look like after they leave that high school situation. And so when they can start seeing and talking to and interacting, that can help with that anxiety.
Might be helpful we have found it helpful, families who've let their young adults go on the internet and look at some of the programs. You might pop on specialneedsprograms.org or go to chapelhaven.org and let them look around a little bit. Start to let them know that they're in the driver's seat, just as you would do with a son or daughter looking at college.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of when to start, sometimes I meet families at transition events and they have a 12-year-old and they're already starting to thinking, okay, well, what will happen after high school? But around 15, 16, start making, those research opportunities and start gathering pamphlets and looking them over together. And then around 17, start making those campus visits, as Catherine said, very similar to what a young adult looking to move away to college would do.
Okay, it looks like we have a question on when I go to a campus, what should I look for? What am I trying to see that would indicate a quality program?
Well, that is the perfect segue. So thank you, question asker. So in terms of what to look for, one thing is, you've done the research, kind of what your goals are that you're looking for your young adult, whether that's a program that's got a college focus or more vocational piece. If it's apartment-based, if it's dorm-based. So you want to start looking, does this program align with our goals that we have? You also want to start thinking about what do the structures and support levels look like. So one thing that we hear a lot from families is that after a student graduates from high school and leaves that very supportive IEP process, sometimes it feels like you're falling off a cliff because not everything is going to be automatically included anymore. And so you really have to start taking a honest, hard look at what are my son or daughter's current skills. One of the things we always ask when students visit is, okay, what does it look like when you wake up in the morning? Do you wake up with an alarm clock? Does mom and dad wake you up? And a lot of times we do hear, oh yeah, I get up on my own. Well, when we dig a little deeper, we might find out that, yes, your alarm goes off, but you're still staying in bed until mom comes in and pulls the shades up and gives you a little good morning jostle. And then 5 minutes later, you come out and are ready to start your routine. So start trying to think about it from an outsider's perspective to see if you can begin removing some of those parental prompts and cues to help your young adults start taking on more responsibility for their day-to-day so that they're then ready for the transition into a program, a post-secondary program. So kind of more specifically about evaluating the program, you want to check and see, are they an approved special education school? That's particularly important if you are working with your school district to place a student through that avenue. You also want to see if they're licensed. Chapel Haven, for example, is licensed through DDS in Connecticut, which is the Department of Developmental Services. And as we mentioned before, we are an approved special education school in Connecticut. Is there any other kind of accreditation that a program has? Some frequent ones that I've heard of are CARF, INCASES, EAGLE, and basically it's a method to see that somebody from the outside has come in and done a thorough evaluation of the program and confirm that they are operating and excelling in all the areas that you would want them to make sure that your young adult is going to be well cared for and well taught. You also want to see, how individualized is the program? So are there opportunities for the program to take into account, particular things to your young adult? So can it accommodate a vocational interest that's maybe outside of their current vocational track? Or Is there opportunities for them to start demonstrating their level of independence pretty early on, or do they have to continue to abide by a set kind of group protocol the whole way through? And then really importantly is, does it include community-based instruction, vocational instruction, college support? So that community-based instruction is very important. If we're preparing our young adults to move out into the community, to have an apartment, to have jobs out there, to access those community supports independently, then we need to be preparing them in those settings, not just in a practice classroom, not just in a group setting, but really in a way where our young adult starts experiencing what it's like to get out there, to take the bus, to do my bank transactions in an authentic setting. A couple of the things you might want to think about: what are the opportunities for social communication instruction? Every young adult that we work with is typically in need of further support in this area. And so you want to see, is there a speech language pathologist? Are there classes? How does leisure planning go? How does weekend social opportunities go? You also want to ask them how progress is going to be measured. You know, are there assessments? How often are they done? How in depth do they go? How are they communicated to you as parents as well as to other stakeholders? And how often, does that happen? And then finally, what does the program offer at the end of that set curriculum? Is it working with you to transition back to a home, another program? Are there lifelong supports available? But have a plan and an understanding of what comes next. So when you actually go and you start visiting the programs, you just want to start thinking about, what do the peers in this program, look like? Do they, and not just physically look like, but how do their interactions look as I'm walking around campus? And do they feel like they might be a match for my young adult? Also think about, what do the staff interactions look like? Do they convey the level of warmth and caring and kindness that you would want to see? You also want to think about safety and security measures. That's another great question to ask as you're evaluating a program. So for example, at Chapel Haven, we have security cameras on the exterior. We have doors that are secured through electronic locks. So it's good to understand, what a program has to make sure your son or daughter stay safe. And then finally, it's one thing to visit a program to kind of get that overview, but it's a whole nother thing to step into the shoes of what a typical day would look like there. So you definitely want to see if there's an opportunity for your son or daughter to do some kind of sample experience. At Chapel Haven, it can range from a sample day of just classes to a full overnight, multi-overnight residential sample experience where you attend classes, you take part in the evening life skills, you also do the weekend recreation. And that really serves two purposes. So it allows your young adult to see if it feels like a fit, and then it also allows the program to see if your son or daughter is ready for a program like theirs.
Okay. And so finally, to round this out, what should you do? What should you do if you're interested? So if you are interested, you can go on our website, and there is an online application for all of our programs. You will create an account, and then you'll be asked to upload some what we call intake, which would be some recent testing, and fill out the application. We will invite you to campus for an individualized tour, and as Christy mentioned, there will be an assessment period. So it could be a couple of overnight days. For the REACH program, it's typically what we call the 6-day visit, which is a Wednesday to a Monday experience, where your son or daughter will get the chance to experience all the different domains of Chapel Haven, from the classroom instruction to the life skills practice in the apartment at night to the weekend recreation. Really a great experience for them to to look and feel and have a sense of what it's like to be at Chapel Haven. And if you're interested, you can go to chapelhaven.org, or you can just give us a call, and we're also at admission at Chapel Haven. I